And here we go. Okay, we're recording. We're on day 4. And today what we had planned for today's session is basically linked or dedicated to the managing of freight orders as well as the managing of events. So these are basically the topics for today. Even though before I get started with this, I'll just briefly go over what we couldn't perform yesterday, or at least we couldn't perform smoothly. But today's session will focus mostly on this, managing freight orders and even managing events from TM, even though I have prepared a couple of freight orders that we can actually see in CCP. So we have the point of view of the carrier and how the events submitted in TM are reflected in CCP and vice versa for those scenarios that are non-LOA. So we're going to learn how to assign the carriers and freight POs to the freight orders, update the locations on the main carriage, update the dates, and also the freight order with the actual charges. And then after that, we'll learn how to submit expected and unexpected events in TM, add notes, and add attachments. And we'll perform these actions as well, even if we just do one of each in CCP. So we have also the view from the carrier side. Okay, but before we get started with that, let me just go over to TM quickly, and I think you guys can see the screen now. So I'm back in TM. This is for troops. And let's see, first of all, if I have any forwarding orders pending. What I have prepared is one scenario for troops and one scenario for COE. We're basically just going to run over what we tried to do yesterday, and that means that I'm going to plan transportation for this scenario for troops now, and I'm going to be making sure, first of all, descending that I have the one I created today first, okay, and that's the one. Today is the 12th of March. So I generated this XWorks scenario for troops air transportation, okay, Islamabad Airport to Bangui Airport, leaving on the 25th, arriving on the 27th. But again, as we did yesterday, I want to show you guys how we can change this so that we can plan transportation in the past. Okay, that's the first thing I'm going to do, and then we'll go into the COE scenario. So first thing, remember that we could change the dates here, right? We can definitely go to the forwarding order document by just clicking on the hyperlink and changing the dates. If we want to do this first before we plan, we would go to the locations, dates, and times. And once we're here, we can edit the document and change the date here. We can go even up to 2018, okay, if we want to, and we can do that here as well, okay? So these are the dates we're changing. We're doing this a year in the past. I'm saving. And that keeps our dates in the past here. And like that, when we have this here in our search page, we still see that it's 2020 here. All we have to do is refresh, and those dates should change, and here they are. Okay, so although I created this one today, the pickup dates and delivery dates are 2018. Okay, so one of the things I wanted to show you yesterday, which I didn't work that well, but let me see if it works today, is that if I went to the cockpit now and I tried to find this forwarding order or this freight unit, let's say, because in the cockpit, that's all we see is the freight units. Again, I would select first my planning profile, which I have set up here for you. And once I click on continue, I shouldn't have any freight units because basically it should still be in the past. Now, by some reason, it still shows here in the future. So what I want to do is this. I'm going to close this page and I'm going to go back to my search page. And what I want to do now is also change the date in the freight unit document, and maybe that will definitely make a difference. So I'm clicking on this. We still have it in the past here. I'm selecting my forwarding order, and I'm going to navigate to my freight unit document. Okay, remember that the document flow tab shows us both documents, and now I'm going to click on the freight unit document, and I'm going to change the date there too. Okay, so we have both documents with the accurate date. So we have the start date and the end date here at the bottom. So let's see if I just click on edit and can make the changes here too, right? So we have our start date 2018. We'll do the same thing for this one, and we'll change the start date as well as the end date for the destination. And we'll change it to 2018 and save. And let's see, okay, the data was saved successfully. So now the date has changed here as well. So I can close this document. I'll close the forwarding order as well. Again, I'll refresh. And let's see if now it doesn't show in the transportation cockpit. So I'm going to the planning transportation cockpit. And now I should go again back to the planning profile, select my planning profile and click on continue. I should not see anything there now, but let's see. And there you go. Okay, so that works like that. Okay, we change the dates in the forwarding order document and in the freight unit document. If we leave the freight unit with the data in the future, it'll still show up in the cockpit. So now how can we plan something that doesn't show up in the cockpit, right? Well, we close the transportation cockpit. We go back to our search page for the forwarding order here. Click on overview forwarding order. And now from this search page, what we do is we select that line that's in the past. Okay, we select it. And remember, we go to follow up and we go to the transportation cockpit from here. Okay, like this, we bypass the system. We still go to the planning profile. We still select the planning profile here. We click on continue. And now we should have that freight unit in the transportation cockpit. And there it is. Okay. So already you see the difference. And this is what I wanted to show you guys yesterday. That's why I'm doing it today again. All right, we still have our freight unit here, but you see it shows in the past. Okay, so let's maximize that for a second. We only have one. I use the username that only has one. Let's try to keep it as clean as possible today. I'm just selecting the one line because I want to plan transportation from Islamabad Airport to Bangui Airport. This is the troop scenario, non-LOA. I'm selecting it, I'm clicking on transportation proposals, and now the system should generate proposals for us. So this is where we had our issue yesterday. So this is a moment of truth. Right now, let's see if this goes through. It has been working fine all morning. And there you go. Okay, so let me take a screenshot of that if I actually can. Well, actually, I don't think I can while I'm sharing my screen. But if whoever is seeing it in Teams now, if we can take a screenshot of that just to show it, okay? I'm going to run it again really quick. Okay, I'm going to run this again. Start the transportation cockpit. And let's see. Nonetheless, I'm going to keep giving this a try. Okay, I know at least sometimes it takes 3 tries, 4 tries, but I know it has worked. So I'm going to just keep running through this. I'm going to select the line here and generate a transportation proposal. So I'm just going to try to run this 2, 3 times, 4 times. It should work. It has been working all day. Okay, let's see now if I'm luckier. And here we go. Okay, so you see, this is something that happens or does not happen. It's very difficult to find the reason why. Okay, so here are transportation proposals. If we take a look at loading, unloading, location, you see the dates here. Here we go. Let me extend this one here. They show in the future still. Okay, so basically, what you're planning transportation for is still showing in the future nonetheless in the cockpit. So I'm selecting the first one because basically all I'm going to get or all I want is one freight order, right? One stage, one leg. You see the others below have at least 2. So I'm just going to stick to the first one. Okay, this is a basic scenario where we're generating a proposal, 1 leg, and we're good to go. But what we're doing is we're generating this for something that happened already. Even though my loading start date and time and unloading start date and time are in the future. Doesn't matter, I can generate this. So I'm going to click on accept planning. Okay, remember when we're just generating a proposal for 1 freight unit, we're working with accept planning. Yesterday we talked about the accept route option, and we're going to work on that in the next scenario quickly. Okay, so accept planning, and now what I should get is in the cockpit exactly that, right? A freight order that has not been generated yet. As you remember, you have the $ with the number 1 document here. But we have our dates here. And now let me maximize this screen. So if I maximize this, we have departure, date and time, as well as the planned arrival. Okay. So if I change it here and I say, okay, well, you know what? Let me do here 2018 or whatever the date it is that I wrote. I think it was the 25th of March. Okay, and the planned arrival date, we can work with the same thing and change it here to 2018, and I think it was the 27th of March. Okay, so here we go. We have now changed the dates here. There's nothing left for us to do on the side. Okay, it's basically all we're doing is just changing dates. So again, it's March, but it's 2018. Let's minimize the screen. And now I'm going to proceed to saving, okay, this, and I should generate a freight order here, okay, and it has done it. All right, my freight order still shows 2018. So here we go. We have planned in the past, okay, basically that's what just happened. I can click on the freight order and I can see that document, and this document should now show us the dates also in the past. So general data tab, see right below, departure date 2018. Okay, so confirmed it worked, right? And that's exactly how you would do it in your scenarios. I know you have a long list of transportation proposals that you have to add to TM in the past, and that's how it would be done. Yeah, so very simple. You can bypass the transportation cockpit once you've changed the document dates. Now, I haven't done it the other way around, meaning first plan, even if it's in the future, then change the dates to the past before I generate the freight order, and then go back to the forwarding order and freight unit and change the dates there. I've always done it in order. I've always changed first the forwarding order and freight unit, and then change the date in the freight order. And that's the way it works. Okay, of course, you guys can test, and if it works differently for you, fine, as long as the dates show accurately. All right, perfect. So that's a good thing. We had a little scare there with the error, but we're good to go with this. So we generated a single proposal and we changed the dates to the past. So we're good to go here. Let's close this. Okay, we can close this screen, and maybe now what I want to do is show you guys the accept route option. All right, so let me just log out quickly and log in with the user for COE. Okay, so I'm going to go back into the training environment, but now I'm going to change to my user here. Okay, for COE, Mojo 123. So if any one of you have tested the training environment, you probably have done this already. So I'm just going through this quickly. Okay, so let's do this again, but now we're looking at contingency owned equipment scenarios. I'm clicking on the forwarding order management, overview forwarding orders, and now I'm going to see the forwarding orders generated for this load list that I was working on this morning here. Okay, so here are the results that we have. We have one created here today and one below, as well as another one. So what do we have here? XWorks Incoterms. Okay, let's make this a bit larger here, and the same as here. And let's analyze this for a second before I go on. So we have two here that I kind of group together, and what this is I use the load list for several locations. So COE, means of transportation, C, several locations. And I use two different examples. First one, the one you're seeing here at the top, is the one that's going from Port-au-Prince to India. And in India, three different locations, Mumbai, Chennai, and Kolkata. So we have the three different locations here. Same for the one below. Okay, I did it twice just to make sure that it worked. And again, same thing, three locations in the same country. Below that, now again today, I did one for a DAP scenario, but this one was going from a different source location, okay, but still the same one, to different locations, but these are different countries. So what we were trying to explain yesterday is that if I was trying to combine freight units, meaning combine transportation routes or proposals together, I wouldn't be able to do it for something like this, for a scenario like this one here, okay? These three wouldn't be able to be combined because basically they're going to different places, they have different MOUs, so we can't combine freight units with different MOUs. And now if you look at the ones above, if I select the three above, so you see which ones I'm talking about, we have the same exact MOU, and we have this scenario where they're all leaving from the same place and going to the same country but different locations. So I don't think I showed you this on the first day or the second day or so, but if we just to make sure that this is covered, the main difference in TM when you're planning transportation for DAP or XWorks or LOA or non-LOA scenarios is that if you look at the DAP scenario, you don't have to plan transportation for it. If we click on this forwarding order, you'll see how we already have a freight unit and we should already have a freight order generated. All LOA scenarios will be automatically, the transportation proposals will be automatically generated by the system. So just to prove that, I'm going to click on this forwarding order here. And we should see in the document flow, as we see here, let me bring this down a tiny bit if I can. Okay, that's it. That's enough. And we have our forwarding order, our freight unit, and 2 freight orders that are already generated. Okay, this is an LOA scenario. So these are generated for you. Okay, remember on day 1, and I can share that quickly, that PowerPoint screenshot that I have here. Remember on day 1 when I was showing you the end-to-end scenario here, the LOA scenario, or the LOA portion of this end-to-end process, showed that the Umoja system generates the freight orders automatically. Well, in a non-LOA scenario, what you do is you select the freight units and then you generate the proposals and then the system generates the freight orders. So this is that example exactly. The one I'm showing here is an LOA scenario, freight orders automatically generated. If I close this and I go back to my forwarding orders here, and I click on one for X Works, like 448 here, what I'll see is that they only have the forwarding order and the freight unit. All right, so that's the main difference. I just wanted to make sure that was covered. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is plan the transportation for this specific scenario. So we have 3 different forwarding orders, which means 3 different freight units. But for some reason, right, in this specific scenario, since we're going to the same country but different locations, they're all sharing the same MOU, we could optimize a bit the transportation, right? And that's where the accept route comes in. That's where we have to play around a little more, and that's where the role of TIA01 is really meaningful. So I'm selecting these 3. And I can definitely just go to the transportation cockpit through here, and that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to follow up and start the transportation cockpit. Again, it'll take me to the planning profile, and what I'm looking at now is this scenario, right? C non-LOA. I'll click on continue, and that should take me to the cockpit and show me all the freight units that fall under this planning profile. Again, I'm playing it safe today, so I'm only using those that have just the ones that I planned. Okay, so here you go. We have the scenario here that freight units 930, 931, 932 from Port-au-Prince to Kolkata, Mumbai, and Chennai Port. Okay, so what we have to do here, normally we would just select one, click on transportation proposals, accept planning, and move on, right? Next and next and next. But what we want to do here, because we realize that we can optimize transportation, is that I want to select all 3. And I want to tell the system to give me proposals for these 3 scenarios. And we can see what we can optimize with, okay, what we can play around with now in terms of transportation proposals. So I have these 3, they're selected. I'm clicking on transportation proposals. Again, this is where I cross my fingers one more time, and let's see if we get our results. It worked before, so we should have the same thing now. Okay, if not, I'll just generate it again. If there are any questions on the dates in the past or what I'm about to do now, let me know. I'm going to proceed with the process, and then we can get back to the questions. Okay, and it's also true that sometimes when you're selecting various freight units and generating proposals, the system may take a little longer to give you the results. But still, we should get some results now. And here we go. Okay, good. All right, so that's good news today. All right, so we have our transportation proposals here. And what do we have? Because now we have to understand what we're looking at. Okay, we didn't have a chance to see this yesterday. So we have a proposal 1 for 1, 2, and 3 freight units. And what the system is telling you is, listen, for the freight unit number 930 here, going from Port-au-Prince to Kolkata, this is the trajectory. Let's say this is the route, right? We have 3 stages. We have a truck route, a sea route, and a truck route. And you can understand where it's going from and where it's going to. For example, Port-au-Prince to another port in Haiti, okay? And this is something that I left this scenario, so maybe we can discuss this also, Nicole and Atreyi, just before I go through with this. It's for some reason the system is telling us, right, that we should go from Port-au-Prince to the other port in Haiti, which is Cap Haitian Port, And we also have now, if we look at other stages, we have Port-au-Prince to Mumbai, and then the next one here does the same thing, goes from Port-au-Prince to another port in Haiti, and then it goes to the final location. Okay, so you wonder why at first it's not just telling me, okay, why don't we all leave from Port-au-Prince, go to the one location, and then spread it around from here. Okay, so this is one of the options that you have before you can accept the route or accept the planning. First, you select the best proposal. So you can look through this and say, which one is more suitable for me? Do I really want to have two of these going to different ports and then having to combine? So take a look around and see which proposal offers you less stages, right? So for example, proposal 2 already shows two of these, again, still going to a different port in this case, the same thing for the one above. So maybe we want to look at another one. Maybe proposal 3 is better. Take a look at this. In this case, in this scenario, what we have is these options, at least till proposal 3. In proposal 4, we also have another one of those that takes us to, okay, here we go. First one is Port-au-Prince to Mumbai and Mumbai to Chennai. Okay, that makes a little more sense. Port-au-Prince to Chennai, Port-au-Prince to Chennai. But then again, the last one says, again, the other port in Haiti. And maybe that's something we want to avoid. So at this point, and before I generate the proposals, and this question goes out to you, Nicole, Treyi, Mohammed. So does this mean now that somebody, if I'm a TS01, I'm trying to plan transportation here, would I think maybe I'm missing a lane here? Would I think maybe there's a master data issue and that's why the system is not giving me all proposals from Port-au-Prince to India directly? Why do I have to stop in another port first? Very likely, right? Thank you, Mohammed. Okay. Okay, sorry. And Trey, I know we can't hear you through Teams, but I'm just going to repeat what you guys are saying. So Mohammed is saying there most likely is missing lanes in the master data. So this is one of those chances where you would say, okay, this doesn't make sense. Maybe I should request master data instead, or request a lane through the master data process. And so that's what I wanted to confirm before I moved on.
Environment have less links, less lanes than the one in production. So what you see in training might not happen in production. Because production, anytime it's a lane, we add it quite instantly. Yeah.
There you go. And thanks for that reminder too.
Yeah. And Brian, I think we went not through accept route, right? We marked all the freight units. COE is not set up in the same way as UNOE. So the consolidation would only work through the accept route. That might also be a reason.
There you go. Okay, well, thank you guys. That's why I left this scenario out, because this could be something we encounter, and solving it like this is better for the students too. So exactly, right? This is not a common scenario. And again, I'm just showing you this so that you understand the accept route option and when it would be applicable if you ever have a scenario like this one. So if by any chance I say, okay, you know what, I do have this option I think is the best, maybe later on when I accept the routes and I generate new transportation proposals, maybe the system gives me a better option, okay? So in one of these cases where you want to optimize transportation, first you would look for the best option, okay, of the proposals that are displayed, okay? So you see here some have 3 stages, 3 stages, 3 stages, all going to this. See, this one actually, proposal 7 is showing us Port-au-Prince to Cap Haitien, and the same thing for the second freight unit. Actually, not for the second freight unit, but also for the third. So in a sense, we're having that issue with no matter what transportation proposals we're looking at here. Okay, I can scroll down forever and I see that no matter what proposal, I'm always have one of those options that is taking me to the other port here. Okay, so in this case, what we're going to do is select the one I was seeing before, which I don't know, in my opinion, is probably one of the best options to later on combine the routes. So what I would do is maybe select proposal 5 and say, you know what, instead of accept planning, I'm going to accept the route. And let's see how the system reacts to that. Okay, so now remember this, we were trying to show you guys this yesterday. So the system splits the freight units into the amount of stages for each one. Okay, so we have 30 divided into 2, the 31 divided into 3, actually 4, and 32 into a single leg. So no freight orders yet. So what we do here is tell the system now again, okay, based on these routes that I think are my best options, I'm going to select them all again. Give me more proposals or give me a better option in terms of combining these routes together, okay, to see if maybe we can skip one stage. Instead of having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stages, maybe the system can give us a better option. And let's see what the system does now. So we're running the proposals. Let's hope this goes through. And we'll see now what the system is offering us after we've accepted the route. But this is how it's done. You accept route first, select the routes you want, and generate again a new proposal.
Brian, I usually do one freight unit at a time to accept the route, because I've run also into the issues that the routes don't make sense. If I want to accept route, they should all have the same stages.
Okay, so then instead of doing it like I did before, selecting all the freight units, you go one by one, you accept the routes one by one, and then, of course, you always select the ones that have the same. Okay, that makes more sense, but thanks for bringing that up, because that's something that a Tier 01 should think about as well, right? So maybe the system, when I select all the freight units, is not giving me the best options, correct? But when I generate the proposal separately, it does, right? And then I can combine them together. Okay, so maybe that is the best approach in a case like this one, right? Because basically, even if I did what I just did now, I have the options here. Okay, still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have them combined here still, all the stages. And I believe that that's the case for each one of them. Okay, so in that sense, Nicole, I think you're right. We could probably do that instead. Generate a proposal, accept the route individually, freight unit by freight unit. Somebody's unmuted. Is that you, Nicole? No questions?
No, I was muted.
Okay, perfect. So in this case, and since I ran into an issue before where I canceled the document, the freight unit document, maybe I can just work with this for now. Let me just select the first one. And basically, in this case, you would accept the planning. And now let's see what options I have in this case. So as Nicole was discussing, and I was saying the same thing, now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stages. So again, maybe this wasn't the best way to generate these the first time. So we could try to do what you just said, Nicole. I'm going to just click back. The only thing is, before this morning, I was trying to, okay, I click back again and I end it. All right, perfect. So that works. So what Nicole is suggesting is this, right? We select one freight unit at a time. We generate a proposal just for that freight unit, and we make sure we select the Port-au-Prince port and our destination location, right? And we're always selecting the best option. So let's do that. I'm only going to generate one proposal now. Okay, so we have our proposals here. And let's look at proposal 2. That looks quite good. And it says Port-au-Prince, Mumbai, Mumbai, Kolkata. So this could be my best option here. Because again, see, I'm having an extra port in the first proposal. So let's do that. And I think this is going to work much better. And you see this, all this troubleshooting and this tip that Nicole gave us is very useful. So let's select proposal 2. And now instead of accept planning, what we do is we accept route, because what we're telling the system is that I like these routes, but I want to combine them with other routes or other possible routes. So I'll accept this. And now we should have our number 30 freight unit here split into 2. And that's exactly what happened. Good. So let's now plan transportation for the other one here. Let's go with maybe this one here going to Chennai. Or actually, let's go with the first one, 31. Okay, transportation proposals. And let's do the same process again. So now we have proposals, and we're going to try to imitate or at least select something similar to what I have here, right? Leaving at least from Port-au-Prince, even though it goes just to Mumbai. And actually, that would make sense, because then from Mumbai, we could go to Kolkata and so on. So here you go. I have my options now, and look at that. My first proposal has one stage, Port-au-Prince, Mumbai. So that is probably what I want. This is what makes more sense. Okay, and then I can probably join together the legs from the other freight unit that I accepted the routes for. So I'm going to select this one here, stage 1, and I'm going to accept route again, okay, because I'm telling the system I just want this route. I don't want the whole plan. I don't want to generate freight orders. And here you go. Okay, so this one is already there. And now the last one we're missing. See, it didn't split 31 into different stages because there was only one stage, but the route is already accepted. And now the last one is 32. Let me do the same exact thing again. Okay, and while this loads, as Mohammed was explaining before, so if you're in production, and we should have, of course, a lot more master data than we have in the training environment. If you do what I did first, select the 3 freight units, generate the proposal, I'm sure that the proposals will look a lot better than the ones we had in the training environment. And then you can just accept the route and move on with that. Okay, we're doing this now, and this tip is very useful, Nicole, because we want to make sure we only select the ones that are good for us. So look at proposal 2. Stage 1 is Port-au-Prince again, Mumbai, Mumbai, Chennai. So this is perfect actually, because somehow everything can leave from Port-au-Prince and meet in Mumbai, and from Mumbai go to the other locations. So I'm going to select that, proposal 2, and accept the route for that one too. So now my freight unit 32 will be split into 2 as well. So now I have what I wanted from the beginning. All leaving from Port-au-Prince, they're somehow meeting in Mumbai. Okay, part of the shipment will be dropped off in Mumbai. The rest will move on to Kolkata and Chennai. But now we haven't generated anything yet. What we have to do now is make sure we select those routes that we have selected, which are the best ones. Click on transportation proposal again, and now we should have the best option in terms of optimizing transportation. Now we should only have maybe 3 stages, 4 stages. We'll see. Let's see what this system tells us versus what we saw before that was 7 stages. Okay, so this is really a very good example of optimizing means of transportation. And that's where the role of the TS01 comes into play. This is where value comes in. Okay, so I'm glad it's working fine, and I think it's been easy to follow today. This is incomparable to what we saw yesterday. So I think today we're finally getting a much better idea of how to plan dates in the past and also plan transportation and use the accept route feature. And as soon as this goes through and gives us a result, I'll move on to what we had planned for today, okay, which is managing freight orders. And it's perfect because I'll actually work with the freight orders that I'm going to generate right here. And here we go. Okay, so now here are the proposals. And look at that. My first proposal, has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stages, okay? Nothing to do with the 7 I had before. And where are they going? Exactly what I told them, right? Port-au-Prince, Mumbai, Mumbai, Kolkata. The other one is actually going from Port-au-Prince to Mumbai, and the last one is going to Mumbai and from there to Chennai port. So perfect. My first proposal is exactly what I want. And I don't think I'm going to get anything better than that. Okay, I can look around, but I'm pretty sure this is it. So now is when I select this combination of routes, okay, and instead of clicking on the accept route because I already did that, now I want to accept this planning. And here, when I accept the planning, I will have 1, 2, 3, 4 freight orders. So what has the system done right now? It said, okay, now since we're meeting in Mumbai, and from Mumbai we're going to the other destinations, why have an extra stage? So you see the amount of stages we have reduced by planning like this. And this is what I wanted to make sure was understood yesterday. Okay. Now we do, for some reason, I see here at least 2 freight orders, 2 different shipments, one going just to Mumbai and the other one, I guess, is going to Mumbai and then splitting from there. If you guys see it in your screen with the freight orders that are showing, I was expecting probably just 1 shipment by sea and then 3 or 2 by truck, but I get 2 shipments by sea and 2 by truck. So in a sense, it's actually telling me that we'll have one shipment by sea to Mumbai and then another one to Mumbai, and from there split. Again, training environment, we may be limited in the amount of master data that we have, and the system is offering me this is the best option, unless Nicole. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Because Mumbai port to Kolkata should not go by truck. So yeah, this looks like a master data issue.
Okay. All right. So nonetheless, I think the explanation, the actions, the steps that I took to get here are clear, right? You should definitely practice this. I'm sure that in the COE or troop scenarios, you may not do this, or maybe there's one scenario once in a blue moon where you'll do this. But if you're dealing with UNOE scenarios, by any chance, which you probably are, this is definitely an option you want to play around with, right? Accept the routes, and you need to understand how that's different from accepting the planning, okay? Even though the results weren't exactly what we wanted here in the training environment, you get the idea of why we're doing this, okay? So let's see. I'm going to accept this. I'm going to save this. Even though it's showing me this separately, what I would be interested in seeing is that probably the one SOW is going to show me all the routes together, right? Even if two are by sea here. Okay, so let me just save this and let me display my freight orders here. Okay, and once I have my freight orders, I can definitely just access these. So I'm going to access the 150 here. And let me close the transportation cockpit here and just work with the freight order. Okay, so once I have my freight order, I already have my SOW document under the Output Management tab. Okay, this is where I would find it. I select it. Okay, I click on Document Preview. And now I would have the details of this transportation proposal in my SOW. Okay, and all the freight orders that are linked to it. Okay, let's say this is the perfect case scenario. We're in production. We have all the data we need. We should only have maybe 3 freight orders instead, or depending on the routes that we have, it would change. All right, but this is what we got. So I just want to show you that we have, based on this forwarding order here, we also have, and this is something I wanted to ask you guys. Of course, again, this is in the training environment, but sometimes I get the MOU reference, right? I think that's in Q, could it be? And sometimes I get the forwarding order reference in the SOW. Okay, I'm not sure this is happening in production, but that does happen to me sometimes in the training environment.
Yeah, it should be the MOU number.
It should always be the MOU number, right? Yeah, but do you see this is one of those examples. I have a forwarding order reference instead of the MOU with all the freight orders. We also discussed this yesterday. If I scroll down to the bottom, because this is what I should do if I'm a TS01, I should ensure the SOW looks fine and has all the data that I wanted to have before I download it and I raise the shopping cart for freight. So in this case, what is the problem here? We have the estimated cost of 0. Okay, so what does that tell us, and what did we explain yesterday? That if this were the case, we would have to add this in the system before downloading the SOW, okay? And that is something we were trying to do as well yesterday. So if I go now in the same freight order here, which is the one ending in 50, I look for the tab called Charges. If this scenario ever occurred to you in production, okay? The Charges tab is where you would have the opportunity to add the estimated charges. Okay, let me just unfold everything here. So here's where we have our charges. The estimated charges would already appear based on the calculation for gross volume. As you can see here below, the calculation is based on the gross volume. So it's multiplying whatever amount we're putting here in the rate amount field. And we'll see how that reacts now in the system. So if, let's say, I'm going to basically add any amount that I can right now, because of course you guys are much better than this than I am, but let's just say that we have $50 US here. The formula will automatically multiply this rate by the gross volume and give us the calculation, which is 63,000 for this specific item here. Then we do the same again for the next line, and we can do that again. I know I'm just adding something that is not realistic, but I just want to show you how adding the estimated cost would work. Okay, so we have here our rate amount of charges. Okay, and now we have our calculation based on the amount that I have just added. And we have here a total amount at the top, 271,000. Okay, so we can also ignore the calculation here if we wanted to add just the total amount directly. We can just ignore this calculation and look what will happen. Basically, it will ignore that multiplication and just take this amount as the total amount. All right, you see how the total amount is changing, and basically every time I click on one of these checkboxes, now you see how the price has been reduced. So we can always use that option of ignoring the calculation rule. If I put it back up, the multiplication occurs, and now we have our total based on the rate amount. Okay, that's just for the estimated charges here that we've added. And if everything was done correctly, we should be able to now save, go back to the SOW document and see the estimated charges there now. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just save this. And data was saved successfully. I'll go to the Output Management tab here. Yes.
You can unmute there.
Yeah. Hi, Brian. It was just,
hello.
Is there a possibility that we can put a total estimated cost in? Because to do an LOA with a freight estimation, on occasion we get a market survey that doesn't provide us with a full breakdown. It only provides us with a total cost for the transportation.
Okay, I know that was something Nicole has mentioned to me as well. So let's go back to the charges tab here and see what options we have.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a new request. So we're exploring the option to add an extra field on the freight orders because the cost would need to be maintained on each of the freight orders, right? So now we did only one, but usually there are more. And yeah, we are working on getting only one field where you could put the total per freight order.
All right, Nicole, is that actually what you were asking about, correct? Oh, okay. Yeah, it's true because you guys are not in Teams at all. You are, because Nicole is speaking through there. Nicole is on. Hi, Nicole. Yeah, basically, we're working on having a field for the actual charge to add the total amount per freight order. Okay, I'm summarizing what Nicole said, but that is the idea. Okay, I don't know if when you unmute yourself they can hear you, but I heard you perfectly. Now, I know we have, if you guys are looking at the screen now, we do have an actual charge field here that we can add the final total, I guess, total amount once we have gone through the solicitation process. But before that, right, to add the estimated charges for the total transportation, right? Because this actual charge field, Nicole, and correct me if I'm wrong, somebody could always add the total amount by freight order there, but we're talking about estimated charges, right? Being able to do this before we go through the solicitation process?
Yes, exactly. So the actual cost is already only one line, right? And it's a total amount, so there's no calculation in there. But yeah, we're talking now the estimated cost that we can also put one lump sum per freight order.
Very good. So in a sense, and the way it works, because I'm not 100% sure, you guys would have the total amount or the lump sum by leg as well, or they would give you the lump sum for the total transportation A to C. So you guys would have to divide it into each freight order? Okay.
Yeah,
so
it should still be by freight order.
It should still be by freight order because according to what Ashley is telling us from the VC is that they would receive the amount, right, in total. But again, if we want to add it as in the estimated charges, we would have to still divide it into 3. Or 3 or 4 or how many legs there are by freight order. Okay, so the only total amount or actual amount that we can add in one lump sum is the actual charge for now. But again, we're still working on having a field for the estimated charges and add a total by freight order. All right, so let's save this again. We saw, I did it quickly. I don't know if you guys realized it, but I went back to the SOW, and this SOW had now the estimated charges. So it's important to make sure that we update the documents in TM before we download them, because of course we could always edit this offline, but we want to keep as much information in TM as possible so that we can always have more accurate data when pulling reports. Okay, we're going to have a session on reporting tomorrow, and we'll see how really keeping the system up to date with all these estimated charges, actual charges, and selecting the best routes and anything we really take time to do well in TM is going to definitely benefit us as an organization in the long run. So here we go, and we have our US dollar estimated cost. Now we could proceed to downloading the actual SOW. Again, remember, in PDF, once it's in PDF, we open it in Word and edit it in Word. And then remember, we also showed yesterday that when we attach a document back into the freight order, and this is useful for both TS01s and TS02 roles, we would go to the Attachments tab here in the freight order. We can do it individually through the Attachments tab, clicking on Insert and adding a file here. And this file, whatever file that we add here, would show under that specific freight order. And again, remember, yesterday we did this too. I'm just running through this quickly, and I want to add a text file here for one of the ones we just used. Here we go. We have a text file. I'm clicking on OK, and here it is. Remember, this was important yesterday too, visibility, right? By default, it's internal. If we want to make it visible to the carrier using CCP, we have to make it external. Okay, and I'm doing this on purpose so that when we log into CCP now, we can see this document there as well.
I want to add one thing, Brian, and that's about the attachment, that Excel files do work. Yesterday, I think the Excel file didn't work. Are you using an Apple device there? I think from Mac, Excel files are a problem, but from regular Windows, Excel files can be uploaded.
No, we're using a PC, not even a PC. It's a VDI, but still, yeah. I think yesterday just wasn't the day to test things in the system. We can try that now as well. Okay, so let me just save this one.
I have a question.
Yes, this is Yuri.
Yes, hi. We have a window there, drop file. This window is not working, or it is working?
Okay, I see. This one here, right? The big square.
Yes.
Yes, it's not working, at least in the training environment. So that's why I haven't tested that. Okay, but basically you just drop the file here, and then you would manage visibility from the menu. I'm not sure if it's working in production. If it will be eventually, yes, I'm sure, because it's a very simple way of adding the files here without accessing without allowing Citrix to access your computer. But yes, that's how it would work. You just drop files here, and the attachment would automatically appear in the freight order.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, there were Citrix restrictions. Actually, that's why we couldn't do the drag and drop. I'm not sure what the latest status is, so I tried to find out yesterday, but I didn't get an update yet if it has been solved.
Okay. All right, so let's see. Now I'm trying to save this. It says it's okay, fine. So thanks, Nicole, for that update there too. So let's see. Now that we're going to move on to what would be the TS02's, let's say, responsibilities in the system, right? We already generated our freight orders. We have at least 4 of them. And we would now have to at least start with the assigning of carrier and the freight PO, if let's say this is a non-LOA scenario, which this is. So let me just exit this screen quickly and go back to our main screen here. Let me just refresh this, okay, over quickly. So now we would, of course, and let me go back to my PowerPoint here. We would, of course, go through the solicitation process. So once we generate our SOW document like we just did. We make sure the estimated costs are inserted. We download this SOW. We raise the shopping cart for freight. So we go through the process normally. The solicitation process goes through, and then once we have a freight PO, once we already have the carrier that's going to be responsible for the transportation, that's when the TS02, right, which would be the role linked to anyone working in procurement division for freight, would have to follow these these steps in the process. First, assign this carrier so that this carrier has access to the freight orders in CCP, because if they're not assigned, they won't have access to these freight orders in CCP, and we'll see that. And also assign the freight PO to it. And then, of course, edit the freight orders with the routes, the dates, and the actual charges as well. Okay, so that's what we're going to do now. That's the next step. All right, let's go back to our system here. And I refreshed, everything seemed okay. So let's go and see our freight orders. I think that's our next step. So I logged in as a TS02 instead of looking at the forwarding order management tab, which, if I recall well, it won't even be available to them in production, right? They would basically have the freight order management tab and the planning tab. I'm not exactly sure what tabs you have visibility on, but of course visibility is limited because you're not performing the same actions. We click on freight order management and we overview these orders now. And let's see what we have here. So I've set up the display also in a way that I can see what has been created today and also the documents linked to it. So basically we have our 1, 2, 3, and 4 created at 2:41 Valencia time. So I know that these are the ones that I just generated today, okay? We have our net amount in document currency. And if you see, this field is not visible initially, okay? I had to actually go searching for this one and add it to the display. We'll display the estimated costs that we added to that SOW before. We only added it to one of the freight orders, and that's why this one is showing an amount and the other ones aren't. That's why it's important to have all these populated and have this information here as well. Once we have the actual charges, those will override these, and that's the actual net amount in document currency that we'll see here. Okay, once we have added the actual charges. Let's move over to the right, and again, we see that this is all linked to the same freight orders that we just planned. We see also the status, destination, and something that's very, very important, and let me bring it over to the beginning here, is this carrier description column. If you take a look at this carrier description column, it says dummy carrier, New York, okay? This means this dummy carrier is the default setting when there's no carrier assigned. All right, we see the other ones below, those that are not highlighted, have other carrier descriptions. Basically, some of them have the troops contributing country or whichever country is responsible for transportation here that has been assigned as responsible. And then we also have a carrier here on this line, which is Scan Global Logistics, and still more below that show dummy carrier that have never been assigned a carrier. Okay, so basically that's how you would know from the get-go that these are the freight orders that need to be assigned a carrier, these three at the beginning, right? Those are the ones we're working on today. They still say dummy carrier, and these are the ones we need to assign a carrier to. So how do we do that? And again, I'm checking the time. There's 5 minutes before our break, but I think we can show this because this is basically just a two-step option. So we can do this from here, selecting all the freight orders. If, let's say, one carrier is responsible for all the freight orders, if there was a different carrier for each leg, which I don't know if that's a possibility, that can be done also individually. But let's take a look at how it's done all together, okay, in conjunction. So we select all these freight orders, and now what we do is we go to subcontracting, and here we select the option assign carrier and SRM Freight PO. Okay, we select that option. That loads a window that allows us to add the carrier directly from here. We could just write the number of the carrier if we know it, the same as the Freight Pio number here. Or we can basically search for the carrier by clicking on the matchbox. So we have different options here. Okay, let's say we know the business partner number and we know it exactly. We can just go with the is option. If not, we can always select the contains option and add at least a reference number. Another option is to use the name or last name of this carrier. For example, this is what I'm going to do now. Contains, just in case I make a mistake in the typing, or maybe I know that there's the word logistics there, but I don't know the name exactly. If I just do that and click on search, I'll have anything that has the word logistics in it. Okay, and I can look for any of the carriers that I'm interested in selecting. And here we go. This is the one I wanted, is the Scan Global Logistics, because I know that's the one that works well also with CCP. Once you select it, see, the carrier number shows up directly. And the Freight PO in this case, since TM is not linked to SRM from the from actually the SRM, the raising of the shopping cart for freight, what we'd have to do is manually punch in this Freight PO number. Okay, so in this case, and since this is the training environment, I can just add any number. In this case, you know what, I'm going to just add this one so it's different from the one I added before. Of course, you would add the accurate number here. There's an option to do this differently, and maybe it's the best way to do this. And again, Nicole and Atreyi, Mohammed, also I'll come back to you on this one. I had a discussion, or we had a discussion with Nicole and Shihan too, on the fact that if you add your Freight PO through here, this way, right, then you're not able to delete it later on in the document. You're able to add a new one, but not able to delete this one. So the best option would be to add the Freight PO in each freight order document individually. I don't know if that's going to be a change in production or not, but for now, that's the option. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the Freight PO number out of this one for now, and I'm going to show you the other way of doing it as well. Okay, so we can get this out of the way. I'll leave the Freight PO number out, but I'm just going to assign the carrier. I'll click on OK, and it's done. Even though now it still shows dummy carrier, if you just refresh, it'll switch to the carrier we just assigned, and there you go. I heard somebody unmute. Any questions?
Well, I was on mute, so I'm not sure how often the SRM Freight PO would change. Ideally, it's just an entry once, but yes, it's correct. If you upload it through this upload, currently we cannot delete it. I don't think there's a ticket yet, but we should log a ticket to fix this.
Okay, yes, definitely, Nicole. I'm sure that usually we'd only add the Freight PO number once, but since it is a manual entry, and I don't know, somebody could just click on a number twice and make a mistake, get back to it and make a change, right? That's basically just why, until we can, or if in the possible near future we have a connection between SRM and TM, and the Freight PO will automatically appear. But for now, this is the way it's performed. So we saw how we can add the carrier this way, and it's already done. And if we wanted to add the Freight PO number, we can basically just click on one individually here. Let's select the one that I have the net amount for local currency in, and let me show you that here as well. So we have, again, we're back to our freight order. We have our tabs. Let me go to the document references tab here. And what we see here is we have the transportation request, the forwarding order, we have the MOU. So this document reference tab will show us all documents that are linked to this freight order. Okay, so basically if I click on edit and I click on insert below, okay, under the document references tab, what I can do, see there's a new line that just generated here. If I select the document first, document type for business transaction, I can manually add any of these, a PO, a sales contract, invoice. Usually the PO will show up in a UNOE scenario directly, so we wouldn't have to add that one. But I wanted to show you this to see the amount of documents that we can select and add here manually in each and every freight order. So if I go all the way to the bottom, I have the SRM freight purchase order option, and I can select that one. And once we have it here, I can add the transaction number here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, and I can add the number here. Doing it like this will allow me to get rid of that number or make a change later on, okay, if I wanted to. See, if I select it now, I can delete it using the bin. The other way around, you can't. for now. Okay, so that's just what I wanted to show you. But you would have to add this in each freight order. Right now, we just added to the one ending in 50. Okay, again, document references, edit, insert, and you select your document. Right here, we have our MOU. Right here, we have a forwarding order, and here we have our freight PO. Okay, so that's the first stage of the, let's say, the content I wanted to cover today, right? We have our management of freight orders. We just did this portion here, assigned carriers and freight POs, right? That's the first thing we just did, and it's exactly how I showed you. Now we're at the hour mark, so any questions before we take the break? Or let's take the 5-minute break and come back. Was this clear? Okay, perfect. So no questions. Let's take a 5-minute break. Very good. And we'll be back, yeah, at around 10:06, 10:07 or so. Okay, so we can get going maybe. I think everyone's back. All right, so I think the 5 minutes are up, so let's get started before it gets later. We have a lot to see. Let me just make sure I am unmuted. Yes, very good. Okay, so while you guys were on break, I added a column here that wasn't displayed either, okay, in my search results page for the freight orders. Okay, I'm still looking at my freight orders, and right now I'm wearing the hat of a TS02. So what I'm doing is I'm assigning the carriers to the freight orders. I already did that, and I was also adding the freight POs, and I did that individually. So if you see, I added the column for SRM freight PO, and it shows for only one of those freight orders, the same one that I added the estimated charges for. So that's what I wanted to show you, how the system is reacting to what I'm doing to it. I could always add the SRM freight PO here as well to have it in my other two, and I should add the estimated cost to the other two freight orders, right? Then my job would be completed here. But I want to move on because I want to show you the steps of how to do things, and this was the first step. So we're working on these right now, and what is my next thing here to show you guys is the update locations, update dates, and update freight orders with the actual charges. Okay, so basically the locations and the dates, okay, these two options here are edited or changed in the same place, right? So if I went back to my freight order, if I wanted to, for example, make a change to my freight order, I can't just go and select any of them, okay? I have to always focus on which one is my main carriage, right? In this case, and because of the data that we have available to us in the training environment, we had somehow two main stages here, right? We have one that goes from Port-au-Prince to Mumbai port, and then we had another one that does exactly the same thing, and then from there splits to the other two. So if we were concentrating only on these three, if these were the three stages that we had, our main stage here, and then our other pre or on stages that we should have if this were a regular, let's say, transportation proposal. Nonetheless, the changes can only be made in the main carriage, which would be the one going from airport to airport or port to port. So I'm only focusing on this line right here, because that's the one that's going from a port to another port. And that's where I want to update my locations. And why am I updating my locations? Because after the solicitation process, the carrier told me, you know what, we have a different route to take. Who knows, maybe the route is cheaper. This is really the business side of the process that you guys are pros in. And I'm not sure exactly how many realistic scenarios you have where the route proposed by the carriers are better than the ones you'll find in TM. We'll eventually learn that the more we use TM, but this would be how you edit these locations. So I'm clicking on the freight order, and once I'm there, again, the process is the same. I click on edit to make any changes to the document, but what I would look for now is the stages tab right here. And this stages tab shows me that particular route, that particular leg, sorry, okay, which goes from one port to another port. And you see how the port fields are available for me to change. I can hover over them, and I have a matchbox there option to add, as well as if I go to the right, I have a planned departure date and an actual departure date field, the same thing as the arrival, which if I scroll a little bit more, I have here planned arrival, actual arrival. Okay, so here's where I'm adding my dates and my locations. And the charges we already did before. We go to the charges tab and we add the actuals. So let's first say, you know what, I want to change maybe one of these ports, and instead of going or leaving from Port-au-Prince, eventually what we're doing is we're selecting another one. So if we click on the matchbox, we have again a window that offers us a number of options. We have location, location type, description. Okay, maybe the description will help us more, just like we did with the carriers. We click on contains, and we can add maybe the other port that I didn't want to select before. So I'm just going to add CAP here and see what the system returns. Okay, basically quite a lot. Okay, anything with the CAP initials there. So we have all these options here, and I don't even know if I will find the one that I was finding before. Maybe I could if I change this and go with. Okay, so here we go. Let's move this over and see. So I don't see the same ones that were offered to me on the transportation proposals, but you see that this is the way you would be selecting or searching for any other ports or airports if you wanted to change them, right? If you know the location exactly, you could add it here. Or if you want to use the location description, you can work with the location description here too. Okay, but I don't see initially the ones that, the same one that I was getting from the first transportation proposal. If you want to change instead of the source location, the destination location, you do it right here. You select the matchbox from the destination location and do exactly the same thing. Okay, and maybe here I can write, if that's even an option. Okay, I'm not sure. I don't know all the ports by heart myself or which ones would be available, but basically this is the way you would search for them. Okay, so you can either write the description, the actual location, or the location type. So the location type, for example, if I said contains and I added a air for airport, any results I would get would relate to the air for airports. Well, again, work on these. We even have a matchbox here for the options. I'm gonna get rid of that. Okay, so these are the options that we would have for the location type. Okay, I was just writing whatever, but these are the actual options. If you click on the matchbox, you have these options here, port, airport. So if I just click on that, that should work for me too. And if I click on the search page, that's what I would get, all the locations linked to airports. If instead I want all the locations linked to ports, I can do that again and just select the port option. Okay, so we would basically work with this and maybe see the location description. In this case, I can add here, I don't know which one would work, but anyway, I think you guys get the idea of how to search for these. Okay, I'm not going to change any of the locations now, but I just want to show you how that would be done and where it should be done, only in the main carriage, okay, from port to port or airport to airport. The actual dates are also added here, so if it's not the 12th, but it's the 13th, we would add our date here. Okay, the same thing for the actual arrival date. We would add it in this field too and add the, I think I forgot a 0 here. Yeah. Okay, and we would basically just save and we would see if the system gave us an error here, okay, because that's a possibility too. You could, if let's say there were many connections in your transportation route, and by any chance, by changing the port location, whether it's destination or source location, the system will tell you, hey, if you make this change, there's going to be an error in the planning, right? So you have to keep that in mind as well. Always pay attention to what the system is giving you back in terms of changing destination or location, source location ports or airports, right? In this case, it's fine. I didn't change any of the locations, just put the actual dates. I should be fine there. And then in the charges tab, that's where I would go again now. Make sure I unfold the items that I'm transporting. My edit button is already clicked, and here's where I would add my actual charge. Now, basically, it works the same way as for the estimate. I could ignore the calculation and basically just add the total. Okay, let's say, I don't know, I'm just going to add 300,000. Okay, I don't know how realistic that could be. Okay, so the value entered is not valid. All right, so maybe I don't have to use the periods. Okay, let's go zeros and let's see if that works better like that. There you go. Okay, so no periods, no commas when adding the charges. And you see by clicking on the ignore calculation, that's the total amount I get now. And it overrides my estimated charge. And this is for the actual charge line. All right, then you'd basically save this and you'd be done with the actual charges. All right, so basically The locations and dates are edited in the Stages tab. Of course, only edit locations in the main carriage, not in the pre and on, and add the actual departure dates, actual arrival dates, add the actual charges in the Charges tab. Okay, so that is basically, it's quite simple. Of course, when done the way I did it, the process is simple. I'm sure the exceptional cases in real life may challenge you a little more, but of course, that's what we're here for, right? To be able to provide support with those challenges. And Nicole and the team in New York, Trey, Mohammed, and so on will be there. So basically, this is what it takes to make changes in the locations, dates, and the actual charges when you're managing freight orders, okay? So we assigned carriers, we assigned freight POs, we updated locations, updated dates, and the actual charges. So the only thing we'd have left now is to manage the events, okay? So this is what we're focusing on right now. We're gonna manage events. And I'm not even going through the PowerPoint because I think it's better to just stick to the system. You guys can always review this in your own time. And now what we're gonna do is submit expected and unexpected events, add notes, and add attachments. Actually, the part of the attachments you already know how, but we're gonna take a quick look at that first. Okay, so let's click out of the freight order. All right, and you see here, if I refresh the page, how this net amount in document currency is gonna change. And it's now, see, 300,000 instead of the amount we had before. Okay, that's the only freight order we've been playing around with, is the one ending in 50. So what do I want to do now? Start submitting events, okay? So again, if I click on the freight order, let's go back to it. I would have to navigate to the tab, and if you don't see it immediately, remember you have the folder here that we have under execution, okay? So basically we're selecting execution, which is there, or you can find it under the folder, okay? And under the execution tab, what we would see is, all right, and actually I have here, okay, something interesting, I'll get to that in a bit. What you would see displayed under the execution tab is all the events that are expected. So all the expected events for this transportation, for this freight order, sorry, specifically, are here represented. Now, the ones with the yellow triangle are those that have not been submitted yet, while the ones with the green square have been reported. Now, I'm not sure, these two I think belong to the other freight order that is there, the one that we didn't want to use, right? The sea transportation. Somehow it's already submitted. I'm not sure if maybe somebody is submitting them on the other side or not. It's just a surprise to see those two submitted here when I haven't done anything yet, but they should basically be all in yellow triangles, okay, meaning that no one has submitted any events yet. What's important is to understand what we see are the expected events. We have handover document, loading begin, loading end, arrival, departure, document sent, document complete, tax exemption, custom clearance, and so on. Okay, now if we want to edit these events, let's say we want to submit them, we click on edit here. And how to do this, there's a very simple way to just select the event you want to submit. It's selected, the handover document here, and I could just basically just do report event. If I report this event, the actual time and date that we are in presently, meaning here in Spain, it's 3:30, 12th of March, that's what the event is going to show if I just click on report event, okay? And that's that. But this is showing New York time, actually. Okay, and this can be changed too, all right? And that's important, and maybe we can take a quick look at that, all right? If you want to change the time zone. This is basically the time zone it shows, but if we move over here, remember the our friends here for the open settings dialog, let's click on this box here. This will allow you to edit the display of the fields, but if you click on the wrench here, the settings, what you can now edit is the time zones. Okay, so what I clicked on here was the wrench, okay, to the top, right next to the open settings dialog. And here you can use your individual time zone instead of the user time zone. If it's different, you can actually select The location specific time zone, I can uncheck that. I can also, the format in full days, hours, minutes, days, fraction of days, hours, and so on. So I could make changes here and select whichever one suits me best. And if I click out of the box here for the location time zone, I don't think I can add the individual time zone here. Let's see if I maybe, yeah, there you go. If I select individual time zone, the field below is displayed. And if I click on the matchbox, I have the option to now add my specific location. Okay, so that if this works well, I should be able to add the location in Spain, let's say. And I'm not sure if I find it quickly, fine. I guess I'll go with the S because it's in English. If it's even there, I see Syria, UK, but I don't see Spain. Okay. Just to show you the change, but no big deal. If I can't find that one, I'll just, you guys can work on this in your own time. Okay, so basically we have different options to select from. Okay, just so you know that you can select different time zones here. And remember, that's with the wrench. So what else? Let's go to the loading begin. If now I want to make some change and say, you know what, the loading begin didn't actually happen today, it happened yesterday. You can also add that date here. You can select the calendar and make sure that instead of the 12, it shows the 11th. Okay, I know that some of the changes I'm making here may not make much sense, but that's how you would perform this action. Okay, you can add the date in the past here and also change the actual time of event or add a time of event, a specific time, if we wanted to say 9 o'clock, 9 p.m. instead, and then you would report the event. Okay. Loading begin has been reported, and the system itself will organize them in chronological order. So we have the loading begin showing before the handover document, the arrival at destination, because the date is earlier. Okay, I can now, even after I submitted it, I can still go back and say a different day and then report the event, and it'll still take the change. Okay, so we have that change performed anyway. And now we have the loading begin all the way at the bottom, okay, at 9 o'clock. To the right, if we see source of execution information, what this tells us is, has this event been submitted by the TM planner or has this event been submitted by the carrier? It'll tell you here. If it says this document, this report, this event, sorry, has been submitted in TM. And if it says CCP, it shows that the event has been submitted in CCP. And we'll see that in a bit. I'm just going to do one more of these. So I'm going to show you one more time loading end. I'm going to show you also that the loading end, I'm going to put this one in the future, and I'm going to add here the time 23, and we can report this event. And now we have at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 events submitted here. Each one of these events, if you select them, okay, arrival, handover, at the bottom, you can add information. For example, if I add an event reason, what I'm actually doing is adding a note to that event. Okay, if I'm saying handover document, I don't know, handover doc, okay. This message will appear also in CCP next to that event. I have to add it here under event reason, and I can do that for each one of these events. Okay, there's a reason code here, but I usually haven't used it. If you guys want to take a look, I click on the matchbox. In a sense, I don't think we even use that one. You can simply add the description here. You can also add the date here as well as the time. And then again, you can save or report, and that change will remain. Okay, if I go to the next one, arrival at destination, see there's no event reason here. I can also write arrival was delayed. Okay, and I'll keep arrival delayed. I'll save. And I'll add now an unexpected event. Okay, so we've only been working with the ones that are here, and we just clicked on report. If I insert an event here, what I'm doing is I'm inserting an unexpected, and you see the icon here shows unexpected event. I just have to select the type of event that I want to submit. For example, I'm going to add the delay because that's the message I added before. And we don't have a planned date, of course, because this is an unexpected event. We can say the arrival at destination shows here the 12th, and maybe what we want to do is show the 13th. Maybe that's the delay. The location, this is what's important when submitting unexpected events. It's the location. We have a drop down that allows us to select where did this happen? Where was the delay? Was it at source or was it at destination? Okay, I said arrival, correct? So the arrival would be Mumbai port. I'm selecting that one. And then is when I would report this event. And now my unexpected event is there. My delay unexpected event is there. Okay. And here I can even write the event reason, delay upon arrival. And save. So basically that's how the events work in the system. That's how we submit expected events. That's how we search for and submit unexpected events. Okay, in the PowerPoint actually, and I can go back to it, you guys will see, and I added this in the screenshots. Actually, let me get out of the presentation mode. Let me discard the annotations and go right to the point where I show you the events. Okay, I have a slide here, slide number 7, where I get into specifics about email notifications. Okay, so each time you submit an expected event, that doesn't automatically send an email notification. Okay, there are some events, and we see it here, notifications for expected events, that will launch automatic notifications. Okay, some of them, and they're here described. The same thing for notifications on delay of expected events, and based on the time of delay, like more than 48 hours, more than 10 days, there will be an automatic email notification to the carrier and vice versa, from the carrier to the planner. For all unexpected events, see, notifications are sent automatically between TM and CCP users for all unexpected events. Okay, so any unexpected will send an email notification. Expected, it depends. For COE scenarios, we have these, depending on if they're a delay or the type of event. And for troops, we have only for unexpected events. All right, so that's also in your PowerPoint presentation. So that's for the events. Now, the next thing I want to show you is to add the attachments. We showed you that already, so I don't have to repeat this. We already have an attachment here for this freight order, and we showed you how to do it individually here. Maybe I can go back and show you the mass upload as well and how that's done for those with the role of TS02 that weren't here on day 3 or day 2. And last but not least is the notes. Okay, this notes tab here on the freight order will allow you to insert a note that is really pertaining to the freight order itself. Okay, it's not linked to any of the events. It's the freight order itself. So whatever message we add here, based on the type of text that we're selecting, okay, we can add execution or comment, a remark, the nature of the goods, loading instruction. We can select the type of note we want to add. The way this works is as a sort of an instant message between you and whoever is using CCP, whoever is responsible for your freight order and is using CCP. This is a good way of communication. But whatever notes we add here will relate to the freight order in general. Okay, so we also have the option here. It does show internal text and the checkbox is not available. So basically anything you add here will be visible in CCP. We can add the content here. So here, I'm just gonna add basic text so that we see in CCP that this is what I just added right now. The language as well, we select English. We don't have to really do anything else because once we save this, we should have, the system should automatically say, okay, this was created by this person on this date and time. Okay, and this note will appear in CCP and we'll see it in a second. Okay, so the notes is quite easy, but it has nothing to do with the notes that we were adding in the execution tab for the events. Okay, so these notes here, delay upon arrival, have nothing to do with these notes. These are for events specifically. This is for the freight order. Okay, so we have that freight order is pretty much completed here. It's the one ending in 50. Let's go back to our screen here. Let me refresh. And now what we can do is, before I go into CCP, because we still have time, I want to show you guys just quickly one more time. If we wanted to upload more than one document at a time, okay, we simply select our freight order or several freight orders, but basically we can do it individually. Click on the Attach tab button, right from here, and select our files from the window that loads. Okay, so basically this works just like the load list. We'd go here, select the file from our computer, we can add them all here, and then click on choose, and all those files would be uploaded simultaneously to that freight order. Okay, so remember, it's through the freight order management tab. You can just select the line, for example, this one, select your line first, your freight order, and then click on attach. All right, so that's the end of the part for submitting events, adding attachments and notes in TM. Let's go and see now in CCP how it would look like for a carrier, okay? And that can close our session for today. We're gonna take a look at what we added through TM and how it shows in CCP, and maybe we can add some events in CCP and see how it looks in TM. Okay, sorry guys, just had to drink some water here. Okay, so I'm accessing CCP, and this is what the load screen looks like. So I'm going to use some of our credentials here. And we have our freight orders. So basically, this is the first page that will show us if we had the role of TS05, if we were one of the responsible staff members that has to submit events in CCP for this particular freight order in the carrier that we assigned in TM. We'd basically click on our freight orders for execution here, which shows 72. And the way CCP works, it will display all the freight orders that the particular carrier is responsible for. Okay, in this sense, since this is the training environment, we have several carriers. You'll see Nissan, you'll see Jazz, you'll see tons of other carriers, and they can all see these freight orders. But of course, in real life, they would only be able to see the freight order assigned to them. That's why it's important that in TM, and actually TM is right here, when we assigned Scan Global Logistics to this freight order, they're the only ones who would be able to see this in CCP. So let's look for that particular DTR, right? So we could actually input this number, okay, directly here in the search field. Okay, we can also look by those that are closed, canceled, or all, depending on the view we want. But basically, we can search for our freight order here, which is this one, 14450. And if we clicked on enter, this our freight order would eventually display here. Okay, so this one ending in 50 is exactly the one we're looking at here. If we looked for 51, 49, or 52, we would also be able to see them here. Okay, but we're just going to work on this one. If we click on the freight order in CCP, this is the way the screen looks. If we look to our left, we have the note that I added. This is a test. This is how it would show. And if I was the TS05 for Scan Logistics, I can say here, test works, and whatever it is that I write here will eventually be submitted as well in TM. Okay, I could go to the bottom here. We have nothing else. We add notes. once I upload an event. So we have here our test works. Let's go now to the right side, and we see that we have the events divided by source location, which is right here, anything that happens in Portal Prints, and then we also have the destination location events. Okay, in TM it was all combined together, but here it's separate. We also have a small section here for tour of events, which is basically all unexpected events. And below that, we have the attachment that I added in TM. Okay, let's see what else we have. So let me scroll up, and I see that the handover, departure, loading end events have been submitted. That's why I have the green check mark. We have the date and the time, and we have the comment. Handover document okay. That's what I added in TM. If we look below, arrival at destination, we have the same thing. Arrival was delayed. If we look at the unexpected event, delay upon arrival, these were the messages I was adding to each one of those events. Okay, so we have exactly what we added in TM is how it's visible in CCP. And if I did the same now, if I was the carrier and I said, okay, document sent, and I wanted to report this one and say, okay, we can work with this one. We can add the date of this event. We can also say the 12th of March. We can also add the time. And we can even enter a comment. Let's just add event. In this sense, there's nothing to add as a reason here, and we can update the events. And our event now has also been submitted. We only have one more event to go. So we just submitted this event. We can do this same thing for document complete. Add our date, add our time, add our comment. Again, I'm just adding this so you guys can see, and update our event. Okay, if the TS05 wanted to add any unexpected event, they would do it through the tour of events here. Okay, we can add one actually. I'll add an event and I'll say that there was a damage, let's say, okay, and that was reported on the 13th when we received the goods. There was a damage here, and I damaged goods and confirm. Okay, we can scroll down, and actually you probably can't see it here because okay, yeah, I have to maximize this a bit where I can actually probably scroll down. I don't know if I can see it here, but the event was submitted. Oh yeah, there it is. We see damage, and if I click on the above arrow, we see delay. Okay, so the event is there, but you just have to move around like this. Okay, so that's how this works in CCP. That's how the TS05 would be submitting events and unexpected events. And now we'll see how these are also reflected in TM, okay? All the details of the freight order are here. All the linked documents are here. Freight PO is here. If this were an STO or a PO, it would be here as well. And the MOU reference is linked there as well. Okay, we can add a note here too. By clicking on the note here, you see that whatever I wrote here under test works is now going to, or should exactly, show below. Okay, maybe I can add this again because I took too long to click on it, and I can click on add note, and there it is. Now I have two. Okay, test works, test works. Okay, so if I go back to my freight order, and that would be our last step, just to check and see if everything has been submitted properly. I would see under my notes tab, the nature of goods, test works, and who submitted that. The attachment, I didn't add any new attachments from CCP, but that would show as well. And the events, okay, I have now two unexpected events, damage, delay, and I can also see the comments added, damaged goods. Okay, so that's basically how the system works in terms of reporting events. Now you may have questions because I'm sure you do, even though you guys are quite silent. I believe the chat is actually quite, yes, quite silent too. But let's leave some room now for some questions and some things that you may want me to go over again. Everything okay on the VC side? You guys fine over there? I just realized that I was muted the whole time. But anyway, you guys could have spoken up anytime.
Brian, can you hear me?
All right. Thank you.
Hello, Brian.
Yes, I can. Who is this?
Maybe only me, but if you can kindly repeat how you get to this SAP page, would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
All right. This SAP here, the one I'm clicking on now?
Yes.
Or the one for TM?
No, the TM is kind of understandable how we can get there, but from the TM to this SAP page.
Okay, well, this is, you're talking about this because you would like to use the training environment to test it, because this is something you, as a TS01, would never have to use. You'd never have to log into this page. This is CCP, and this is basically for the carriers to submit events. We would never use this page. I'm just showing you this so that you understand how the events work back and forth.
Okay, so this page must be maintained by the carrier.
Exactly. Okay, we as TS01s would never go log into this system to submit events. We always submit our events through TM only.
Okay.
All right, but thank you. Thank you for the question.
Thank you.
Anything else? I'm glad that we were able to go through everything that was expected, even with yesterday's delay. All clear on how we assign the carriers, the freight POs, how we can attach the documents, any questions on the events, past date, generation of proposals, the accept route versus planning. Again, it's not the very common scenario for COE and troops, but still, nothing else. We still have 10 minutes.
To be honest, there's lots of questions, but yeah, I just don't know what to ask, because the training is kind of really compressed and fast. So you're just barely following you. But anyway.
Okay, I see. I see what you mean. Yes, I try to go as slow as possible, but it's true that there's a lot of things, and I'm only showing you basic, simple scenarios, and I'm sure you have a lot of questions, business-related questions, and how does the system react to those business-related questions, and that makes a lot of sense. If you can come up with anything in the next 10 minutes, let me know. There's something I just remembered that, of course, you guys may know or not, but we were submitting events, just basically showing you how to submit events. But keep in mind that we would always... okay, let me go there. Okay, very good question. So this question related to roles, it would be the TS01, because the TS01 is the one in charge of the submitting events. Okay, so if I go back to my here, my end-to-end process, right? And actually, let me go into presentation mode here so I can scratch some things here. Let me just load the entire end-to-end process, right? So we can define responsibility by roles here. Okay, what we're basically talking about is that the, here we go. Okay, and let me just mark this with a pen. Okay, so here for the planning, right, we're talking about the planning and the executing and monitoring, which is basically the management of events. Both of these TS01, okay, I wish I could write better with a mouse, but this is as good as it gets. Okay, so TS01, this is the responsibility of the TS01, okay, TM planner. That's why we added the role here at the top, TM planners. And then again, CCP, if you see, and this I think was what Yuri was asking, the system CCP is only for TS05, which is the carrier, so we don't worry about that. Now, where the TS02 comes in is right here, okay? TS02, okay, would come into these two options here, okay? So they're the ones in charge of assigning carrier, assigning the freight PO, editing the POs, the freight orders, sorry, they all sound so similar, with the routes, dates, and charges. Okay, so this is the sole responsibility of the TS02, which in a sense is very big because first, if we don't assign the carrier correctly and the freight PO correctly, there's a mess then later on with the event management, right? Because the carrier won't have the assigned freight order. And if we start submitting events as the TS01, we're basically not communicating with anyone. Also, we have to have the accurate routes, dates, and charges. And in that edition, especially in the edition of the routes, correct, we showed that we could just click on the matchbox and select a new port or a new airport, but we didn't say that, oh yeah, we did say that you could encounter an error. So let's say you don't have the master data that is required for that change of port and airport. The TS02 also would have that responsibility of requesting master data because the planner, okay, when we're generating proposals, selected one proposal, but the TS02, when adding the actual route, may encounter that the master data is missing for a particular lane or location and would have to request it as well. Okay.
Can I just
Okay.
add to Odion's question? I think
Sure.
Brian's talking about the different roles and what the responsibilities are. As far as events are considered and notifications are considered, it's not that every event triggers a notification. It's unexpected events and few expected events such as handover. So it's only specific expected events as well as all unexpected events that trigger notifications. As far as who gets it, majorly the TS01 gets it and the inbound delivery coordinator gets it, but TS02 also gets it when it's about rates. So if there is a route change or a rate or a cost change, these two are relevant for procurement. So those two events, TS02 gets notified as well as it's procurement related.
Okay, thanks, Atri. So I could probably edit the PowerPoint and send it over again. So what exact here? Can you see my PowerPoint on your screen? So accurately for troops, there really is only for unexpected events, correct? But then when we're talking about COE expected events that go to the TS02 as well, are which ones did you mention?
It's not the ones that are written over there.
That are here, okay.
Yeah, it's if there's a cost change or a route change. If Nicole is on this call, she can add to it as well. Those are the only specific ones which are for TS02 notification.
Okay. So I'm
Yeah,
adding
exactly.
that now.
So they would get only the ones, if I remember right, but it's on the Excel file. Yeah, only for unexpected event if there's a route or cost change. That's correct.
Okay, perfect. Thank you both. And thank you, Rodion, for that question too. I think that's where we wanted to get to, right? Exactly who's receiving the notifications and depending on what notification exactly, okay? So I'm gonna edit this slide on the PowerPoint and send it to you guys again, right? So basically, as we're talking here, the TS01 would be the one receiving the notifications for these events here. And that's something I can just add right now to the PowerPoint. And then when we're talking about the TS02, and we're talking about cost change and route change, notify the TS02, okay? So there you go.
And troops should also get a notification for departure because there should not be a difference by troops COE or UNOE. It should be by event. So if departure events, they do send a notification, then it should also be true for troops. But I can double check.
Okay, yeah, please, Nicole, because I wrote this slide based on that Excel, and it didn't seem to show any notifications for the troop scenarios. Okay, so I'm just making that quick change here. And we'll wait on the update on troops, and then when we know that, I can send this update again as well. Okay, so I'm just going to save this for now. Let's see if there's anything else. Okay, that's a question. Perfect. Thank you. All right. So what do we have now? Another 5 minutes? Anything else? Thanks for the questions, everyone. And thanks, Trey and Nicole, for jumping in.
Do you want to continue where you were? You were showing the flow chart and marking something there. I think we interrupted that.
Actually, yeah, I mean, I basically explained the roles that are responsible for what actions, right, in the chart, and also how one thing would impact the other, all right? So, and how important it was for the TS02 when updating the routes to also make sure that the routes are actually there in TM, right? There will be times when we're updating a route, and again, so I show you in the system, if by any chance I was making a change to one of these port-to-port scenarios, for example, this one freight order, remember what I was showing you guys before, and let's wait for this screen to load. Just because you are now just simply editing a location, right? You're in the Stages tab, and you're editing this location here, Mumbai port or Port-au-Prince. Well, in this case, since I'm already submitting events for it, I can't change it. But basically, when we were changing the destination or source location with the actual locations, you could encounter the problem of missing master data, okay, of not finding the port you want to connect to, the one that the carrier is actually going to do. And it would also be your responsibility at TS02 to request this master data. So it's also important for you to remember that. And I think that's also here in our PowerPoint. You can encounter, yeah, right here, slide 4, okay? There will be, see, if actual shipping points are not available, TS02 will have to perform the request to the MDM team, okay? So that's also a responsibility of the TS02. And you have the link to that page right here in the slide as well. Okay, so that's basically what I wanted to show with this slide, okay? How the responsibility is divided, who does what, and how one thing impacts the other. Okay,
Brian,
let's go
I have
back.
a question.
Yep.
Yeah, we know who is TS01 and who is TS02. We have seen on your slide TS05. But just question like, who is TS03 and 04?
Okay, good. So this is actually, I think this is the presentation of day 1. On day 1, here you go, Yuri, just give me a second. On day 1, we defined a bit the roles that we were looking at, right? So we talked about TS01 and 2. This is related to the TM roles, and this is related to MoveCon and PD. But then we also mentioned the role of TS04 and 5, right? TS05 is basically for the CCP, so it's a role for the carriers, while the TS04 is the role for the master data team. So basically talking about MoveCon and PD, the roles that we're worrying about are these two, TS01, TS02. Okay, but I still wanted to make reference to the other roles because we were going to be talking about them during the training session. There's also a slide 10, that defines who's doing what, okay, in each one. See, TS05 provided enable access to the carrier collaboration portal. So it's not for us, it's not for MoveCon, it's not for a PD, and the TS04 is for the master data team. And that's why these show here, right? TS05 and so on.
TS03 is still missing.
TS03 is just a display role. So it's only for people like say RNI, or a few users have been given TS03 just for them to see the events and the general data, the different tabs, but they don't have the power to do anything in TM as such.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. Right. Thanks, Trey. So yeah, I don't know where you saw the TS03 or if that's something you knew, but yeah, I forgot that you said TS03 as well. Okay. Yeah, TS03, I think Trey gave you the a wonderful definition of that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Yuri. And let's see, because there is a question in the chat here. Tamara is saying, is it going to be similar training for UNOE? Okay, well, okay. And similar training in a sense, if we're talking about clicks and steps and actions in TM, yes, it's very similar because you're basically generating proposals the same way, reporting events the same way. So the actions are the same. What changes is first how you generate documents, right? We're not using load lists or Excels to generate forwarding orders. Actually, for UNOE, it's DTRs. But eventually, if we're looking at this slide right here, everything in TM works the same way. Okay, the business scenarios are different. The combination of the freight units, of course, is more used in UNOE scenarios than it is for COE and troops. But the actions are very similar, if not exactly the same in TM. Okay, Tamara, I hope that clarified your question there.
Yeah, in case she was asking if we will have a UNOE training like this. So this was set up specific. Oh, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Is somebody else talking?
I am. Sorry, Nicole. You're
Okay.
right. If I'm reading it the way you're saying it now, and it makes sense like that, if there is going to be a training on that.
Yeah, no, there will be. I mean, it's not planned. It was only for new people in COE and do a refresher for COE and troops.
Yep. Thank you. Thanks, Nicole. So yes, and that's exactly it. Tamara is adding to that comment. So there is no training planned. Okay. Not right now. No. Okay. So thank you, Tamara. Thanks, Trey. Anything else we can cover? Tomorrow we'll focus more on the reporting side. So we're going to be accessing BI and also Power BI, and we'll show you the reports that are available for TM. And we've been playing around with some of them already today, and I think it's going to be a very, very useful session. I took a look at one of the PowerPoints shared in, I think, one of the brown bag meetings from MoveCon that was shared with everyone. And I saw that one of the slides actually was showing the percentage of transportation, of troops transportation by air that was managed by the troops contributing country versus the one managed by the carrier. And we actually have been working on a report that will show exactly that based on data in TM. Just for 2020, already starting from January on. So it will be very useful. So I'm looking forward for tomorrow's session as well. Okay then, so I see nothing more. I'm sure you guys have to go back to work. So thank you all. Glad the session went well today. And we'll see you tomorrow.